Hello, everybody, and welcome to this next session of the day. My name is Elizabeth Beer, and we're going to look at how we can animate our students with Wider World Second Edition. And this is what we're going to cover today. First of all, we're going to briefly look at what parents and students are saying about their learning preferences nowadays. Then we're going to look at that data and how that relates to the Wider World Second Edition book, and looking at how it does engage our students, how it guides them to take the lead, so that they're in charge of their learning, and it also challenges them, which is really important. And I'm also going to throw into the mix today some extra ideas for you for how to teach video activities, future skills, and visible thinking routines. You've got some nice things to take away and to implement in your class straight away for the upcoming academic year. So let's move to the first point then, what parents and students are saying about their learning preferences. And I'm going to refer to this document here that you can find on the internet, and it's the Pearson Global Learner Survey, and this edition is from 2020. So just a bit of background about this survey. It's directed at people across the globe, various continents, and more than 7,000 people responded about their learning preferences and their children's learning preferences. I'm not going to show you the whole document because it's very in-depth, but I'm just going to show you some things that are really relevant to us and our session today. So in a post-COVID world, well, nearly post-COVID world, we're getting on with things now. People are starting to realize that I can't rely on my teacher. My teacher might not even physically be in the lesson with me. I have to do more self-directed learning. And this realization has come into the idea of taking more responsibility for your learning. And students have realized that, yes, they do want to learn. They have missed school. They have missed that kind of interaction. And they are now willing to step up and take more responsibility. So we've got a statistic here. 88% of people believe that they need to take more responsibility. And that belief also works for adult education as well, that adults also need to upskill or reskill for their jobs. Another thing to consider is the idea that we're not simply teaching traditional subjects anymore. We're language teachers, and traditionally it would all have been grammar, vocabulary, but students are now saying, that's great, but I also need other skills that are going to help me in my future. And very often these skills are called future skills. And this is referred to here in this data in point 2. It says that begin to teach some basic level of skills that will be useful in the workplace, such as teamwork and communication. And these are two very, very big things that employers are looking for in the future, and that can be transferred to almost any job that you do. Point 1, of course, refers to technology. And of course, we're going to try to integrate technology into our learning. But as we're language experts, I think the second point of that is where our focus should be. The idea of teamwork, communication, collaboration, and skills like that. Then if we look at when should we be teaching these extra skills, many parents have responded that they think it should be as early as primary school, that we should be starting to implement these skills, starting to show and guide our students how to communicate better, how to take the lead, how to be responsible for yourself. But if we then look to the secondary system and across different countries and in different continents, all of them agree that these skills should definitely happen in secondary school. And of course, this is what we're focused on today, secondary education, and how we can challenge our students and how we can help them with the future of their work. So let's just remind ourselves again of those key takeaways from that data. Students do want to be more in control of their learning. Now with the rise of technology and the fact that we can find information faster than ever before, students have realized, yeah, I can be in control of my learning. I like to find things out. I am a curious citizen of the world, and I want to be more in control. And this was just compounded by the global pandemic that we went through. It's more important than ever to learn more than just the classical subjects, English, math, science. There's other skills that students are going to need for their future. And that is in pretty much whatever job they decide to do. So this is this idea of, in our classes, we need to challenge our students and help them to learn these extra skills. And that in some cases, people believe that this should start to happen as early as primary school, but of course, for sure, in secondary school. So then how does that translate to us when we're choosing a course book? So let's bear some things in mind. We need to make sure that when we choose our course book, it has plenty of student-centered tasks. So we're moving away from the idea of a teacher being at the board and talking through a grammar point and explaining things to students, and more that the students are going to be in control of their learning. That it does contain sections that practice future skills. That would be marvelous if your coursebook could do that for you. If it doesn't, you're going to have to supplement it yourself, but it's far easier if your coursebook can do that. So real focusing on responsibility, leadership, communication, not just to practice a language point, no, but to practice those skills apart from using the language. And that we ask our students to challenge themselves and to think for themselves. And then, of course, most importantly for me as well, that it's a fun course book, because you're going to be using it for the rest of the academic year, perhaps even 2 academic years. So you have to make sure that students like the book and that you like the book as well. So of course, I'm going to talk now about Wider World 2nd edition and how it does answer all those needs that our students are looking for. So the description of our webinar today was, how does Wider World 2nd edition engage our teen learners, guide them to take the lead in their own learning, and challenge them in terms of language and life skills? So I would like now to take each of those green words or phrases and break it down for you to show how we can use these books to engage, ask students to take the lead, and challenge. So let's turn first of all to how the book can engage our students. Well, for me, the first thing when choosing a course book is, how does it look? Is it bright? Is it colorful? Does it catch the eye? Are students interested in opening the book, reading the page, analyzing what it has to say? So if we look here from Wider World 4, we can see the first chapter of this unit. It's a vocabulary chapter, and it is bright. It's colorful. The color is used strategically. All the pink sections are vocabulary sections. The green color there is a focus on the environment. So it's eye-catching. I want to look at this page. I'm sure my students will want to look at this page. And it's also very, very modern. A lovely sort of modern theme here. We've got global warming, food waste and the challenges involved in that, things about the environment. So it's very, very relevant as well. And students will have an opinion on that because it's things that they see in their daily lives. In the course book, it's quite easy to teach for you guys, and it's easy to understand for the students. So within each unit of the course book, the pages are divided into sections, and each section has a particular focus. So we've just looked here at a vocabulary focus. And the idea is that you teach this vocabulary section as one class. You can divide it up, of course. It seems like a lot, but because we have an infographic here, actually the tasks are very achievable in your lesson. And then if we turn the pages, we then come on to a grammar lesson. So everything scaffolds and builds up and helps our students to achieve a grammar aim. Then in the next lesson, we'll come on to a speaking aim. And again, we've got a model. We're building up our vocabulary, our phrases, pronunciation, till finally the final task. Here, the same can be said for listening and vocabulary, and a writing page. So everything is very structured, quite clear and easy for our students to understand. Now, very importantly from that data we looked at earlier, when choosing a course book, how can we engage our students? Asking them to take the lead in the activity. So how can we do this? Let's look again at this grammar page that we just looked at. Okay, so let's focus in on this page now. How can we ask our students to take more of the lead? Well, let's zoom in. As we can see, it is building our students towards understanding the context of the grammar that's being used. And we're asking our students questions that they have to answer. Number one, do you think it's important for a town or city to have parks and open spaces? What's your opinion? Straight away, the students are working, the students are taking the lead. Then they're asked to read that blog post, and grammar is presented in that blog post. Then the next section is asking the students to study the grammar box. Now they can do this in class by themselves. They study, they find out the rules, they can ask their partners for clarification, they go back to the blog post, check answers. But there's also something that we can introduce here, and it's this concept of flipped learning. I'm sure that you guys have come across this title before, but just in case you haven't, I'd just like to briefly talk you through the idea of flipped learning. Flipped learning is the idea that the grammar isn't done in class time, but in fact, the grammar is done as homework before the class starts, okay? So why are we going to do this approach? Because in our class, we want to prioritize speaking, group interactions, and answering any questions that the students have where they perhaps don't understand. As we know, not every student is the same. Not every student understands things at the same time. And if you're teaching a grammar point to 30 students in your class, some people will get it easily, some people will struggle for a bit, and then they kind of click into gear, and some people may feel like they're lost, especially if you only go over it one time. So if we set this as homework outside of the class, then it really helps our students to absorb what the grammar point is, understand it, relate it to their own language, and then they're fully equipped to come into the classroom and really attack with you those communicative activities where they have to try to practice that grammar. You can also do a really big focus on pronunciation, making sure that the students are saying it correctly with the right emphasis. So there's lots of things that you can do if the students have done the task by themselves. Now, how can our students look at the grammar by themselves? Well, in every Wider World second edition book, you have all the grammar points done for you and your students in a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. So here's an example of the menu. So in Unit 1, you've got 2 grammar presentations. You've got present tenses and past tenses. In Unit 2, you've got past perfect and used to, which is what we're looking at. So let's look at the used to PowerPoint presentation. All you need to do is to email this to your class or put it on the platform that you're using. Students can download it and walk through the grammar point. It's not necessary for you to teach them. So let's have a look at it together. So first of all, we've got the explanation of the grammar point. We've got some examples. And now we ask the students to try to find examples of used to in this text, okay? So again, we can ask them to do it from the course book, or we can ask them to do it here. Now, before they see the answers, there's a little prompt. So just in case, there are 5 examples. So if they've only circled 3, they have to go back and check the text again, make sure they've circled 5. Then as they click through the presentation, it highlights for them where the 5 are. Then it breaks down the grammar, just like the course book does in the box. It breaks it down slowly as you click through with extra advice on why we use used to. What does it mean when we put that grammar into practice? And we click through at our own pace. We might even want to go backwards if we've not understood something. And we can take our time with this. We can see the presentation multiple times if we're a student, or just once if we understand it perfectly. Then it comes into the last page where students are having a go at trying to form the grammar themselves before class. If students have analysed, tried to do the grammar, they're more likely when they come into class with you to be able to more successfully do the activities. So as we click through, we have the answers. So that's an example of a PowerPoint presentation you can send. And it's lovely because students, as I say, can watch this multiple times. They can study this at their own pace, There's no rush. There's no feeling of, oh, my partner understands, but I don't. Oh, dear. There's extra things they can do. So for me, if I get a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation of a grammar point, and I still don't quite get it, I, at home, have my search engine. I can WhatsApp my friend and say, I don't understand the grammar. Do you? So there's other ways of consulting. I might even find a web page where it explains it in my own language, what this English grammar is, so I can just comprehend it a bit better. And as I say, it frees up loads of time for you to do the communication things in class. Then when you come to the class, here are the communicative things that we can practice. So we can ask our students to complete these grammar sections. They could do it for homework too, but then they've got two activities here where they are encouraged to work with partners, to speak, to practice the grammar. And of course, you're going to do a speaking cycle where students are paired up, they think, they then talk, they receive feedback from you, they change partners, they have another go. Because very often in speaking classes, students get one opportunity and then, oh, we've run out of time, we've got to go on to the next thing. And in fact, the most important thing is when learning a language, practice, 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 practice. This allows more time for you to do practice in class, or even to supply even more speaking activities as well. Another thing that we can do in our classes is to engage our students with videos. Every student loves watching videos. So of course, the Wider World Second Edition coursebook is packed full of different videos. Now, the first type of video that you can find in the coursebook are videos with authentic speakers. What I mean by that is it hasn't been recorded with a script. So there are no actors, nobody's memorizing lines. In fact, it's an interview with people on the streets of London, and the people are answering questions. And what's really lovely is you get to see how authentic language works, with people making little mistakes or how they correct themselves, the pronunciation they have, and all these little features help our students to become better speakers and listeners themselves. But also when they go abroad, they'll be able to also hear things a little bit easier, I think. So it's very sort of natural language. I'm going to show you an example now. So this is the grammar page from Coursebook 2, and it's practicing present simple and adverbs of frequency. So the final section is sort of putting all that grammar into practice by watching these authentic speakers. They're not only English speakers, they're speakers from around the world, because as we know, London is very cultural. And so now students have to watch the video and they're writing down free time activities. And then after that, they do their own practice. But we'll come on to that in a second. Let's have a look at an example of one of these videos.
Where were you last Saturday?
On Saturday, I went to the cinema in Epsom to see The Jungle Book, which was really good. It was pretty quiet actually, because it's been a really hot day, so it wasn't too busy in the cinema. And then that finished pretty late, so that was my evening really.
We went to collect mangoes because mangoes are in season in Bombay. So we went to collect them from her father.
It was one of the first really hot days leading to summer, so I had a fun time at the park.
So on Saturday just gone, I was on the beach with my 2.5-year-old daughter, playing in the sand and in the sea. There were lots of people around. It was very sunny. She got a bit of a tan. She enjoyed herself a lot, so did I. We had some ice cream that we weren't meant to tell her mum about, but she said, "Mummy, I'm not going to tell you about the ice cream that I had."
So a short little video there, and it's lovely because you've got all these different accents and all these different ways of speaking. So we can do the activities in the coursebook, of course. Listen, write down what they did. But we can also play some other games with videos and do other activities. So, for example, before the students even watch the video, we can show some pictures of the people about to speak and some sentences. And we have to ask our students to match the sentences to the person they think is going to say it. So again, it's just speculation, it's guesswork, but it's warming students up and it's introducing perhaps some vocabulary that might trick them. For example, it's not very common to hear the word mangoes. So my first sentence contains that word because I might need to clarify some doubts that students have or check the pronunciation. So then, of course, students watch and then they match the right answers to the right people. And you've just seen the video, so you can do this activity already. Here are the answers. And then we can watch again and write down the free time activities and so on and so forth. Alternatively, I can isolate one of my speakers. So again, before watching at all, I could just isolate one person, for example, in this case, Andrew, and I can do an activity with Andrew. I can say, okay, I'm going to enhance this because he gives a really long answer. So I'm going to help my students. Okay. So I'm going to, first of all, show students a picture of the beach because he talks about going to the beach with his daughter. And I'm going to say to my students, okay, a man is going to tell you about his trip to the beach. How many vocabulary words do you know? Here's a picture to generate some ideas that I can project on the board. Students make a list with their partners, brainstorming. Then they watch the video and they can tick any words that they have and that he says. And if they miss any words, they have to write them down. So as we know, we've just seen the video, he mentions these 5 vocabulary words, the beach. Okay. So that's also another way to approach a video. You don't have to play the whole thing at the same time. You can focus on one particular speaker. And Andrew is really interesting. He has interesting ways of talking, like he goes up when he hasn't finished. We went to the beach, we had an ice cream. So it's also isolating a speaker, noticing features of pronunciation as well. It's really rather nice.
So on Saturday just gone, I was on the beach with my 2.5-year-old daughter, playing in the sand and in the sea. There were lots of people around. It was very sunny. She got a bit of a tan. She enjoyed herself a lot. So did I. We had some ice cream that we weren't meant to tell her mum about, but she said, "Mummy, I'm not going to tell you about the ice cream that I had."
So there's lots of things to engage our students in there. And a couple of free activities we can do after watching the video. Again, personalization, letting students take the lead in their own learning. So again, we want to obviously ask our students to practice what they did last Saturday. And for me, I've isolated some sentences here from the video. And the words in italics are what we call replaceable words. So we learn a structure and then we just simply replace the last word if we want to. For example, it was quite fun. It was quite boring. It was quite sunny. So we can change our adjectives there. I had a fun time at the park. I had a great time at the skating rink. So we can change it around. Okay. So helping our students to learn these set phrases, noticing these set phrases as well, and they can copy and put into their speaking really, really helps. Another thing that the Wider World Second Edition coursebooks have are dedicated BBC culture lessons and videos that help students to explore other parts of the world, because our students are now global citizens. We are very much connected and aware of what's happening around the globe. And so to have lessons that reflect that culture is fantastic. And these BBC videos are longer and contain more things for students to do. So let's have a look at the BBC culture pages. Now, these culture pages happen at the end of every other unit. So units 2, 4, 6 will have a double page spread that looks like this. And it contains a reading on the left or a listening. And then on the right, we have our video. You can teach the whole thing as one if you like, or break it down. You might want to break it down because the video is so rich, the text is very rich, and at the end, there's a big project for students to work on. So there's lots to be getting on with. But let's check out this video from BBC. Okay, first of all, let's just watch it and notice the difference between the authentic speakers and this BBC video first.
These are the Maldive Islands in the Indian Ocean. The Maldives are a system of coral islands. They're one of the biggest areas of coral reef in the world. This is Simon and Marie. Marie has organised a project to save the coral reef in the Maldives. Today, she's taking Simon to explore the underwater world of the coral reef. They've just arrived at an area called the Bar Atoll. The Bar Atoll is home to some amazing fish, plants and sea animals. It's an international nature reserve. It's a beautiful place. Very small animals make all of this coral. Coral reefs are full of wildlife. "25% of all the different species in the ocean use coral reefs for their home or for their food.
Amazing. It's an amazing place to visit.
But the Maldive Islands have a problem. All around the world, the temperature of the sea is going up. Coral reefs don't like it when the temperature of the sea changes. Marie has just found a piece of dead coral.
In what ways is the coral reef so important to people here in the Maldives?
The coral reef keeps the rest of the ecosystems in balance. They're like the rainforest.
Coral reefs all over the world are dying. The temperature of our seas has never been so high. Pollution and fishing are big problems too. It's already too late for this reef in the Maldives.
It's all dead.
The coral reefs and their wildlife are in a lot of danger. What can we do to help?
As you can see, these videos are a little bit different. Of course, I'm sharing my screen with you today, and maybe perhaps the video quality maybe was a little bit delayed or jumpy, but of course, when you watch it in class, it's a different story. But you do get the idea of how beautiful these videos are, how informative they are, and the language has been modified to help our students to understand the most that they can out of it. And we've got a pre-prepared lesson here from the book. We look at the photo, we discuss what we think is going on, where do we think coral reefs, the biggest coral reefs are, what is a coral, and then we're going to watch our video and we're going to watch again and tick facts and learn facts, which is really great because we like learning facts about the world, being global citizens. But there are more things you can do with video. So I'm just going to show you a couple of things as well to help you to take away to your class. Before watching, show a couple of images of the people involved, and with your partner, talk about who you think they are, where are they from, what do you think their hobbies are, and how are they feeling. And then it helps them to warm up to the idea of the lesson, get talking and get engaged. Another thing we can do is bring in geography to the classroom. You know, can learners find the Maldives on a map? Here it is on the left side next to the equator. And then I've also provided an image of all the islands. Did students imagine it was there? Did it look like that? We can also promote this idea of critical thinking, asking our students, you know, okay, it's here in the world. What kind of weather do you think they have? Now, we know what the weather usually is like towards the equator. So getting students to have a think about that. What would be the benefit of living in the Maldives, do you think? You know, island life, good weather, good seafood, perhaps. What might be the drawbacks? Difficult to find a variety of jobs. Perhaps there's not that many cinemas to go to, or shopping malls if you're into that kind of thing. And then what kind of jobs do people do there? So probably looking at tourism and travel. So again, it's asking our students to try to put themselves in the shoes of other people. Here are some other video activities you can do while students are watching on any video that you have to show to your class. Students watch the video, they write down a question and they provide an answer. Maybe it's a true question, maybe it's a false question. They write it down on a card or a piece of paper. Then do a traditional mingling activity. Students stand up, find a partner, ask the question on their card, which the partner has to answer. Then they swap and the other partner asks their question. Once the questions are answered, both of them, they physically swap papers. They give their card or their paper to their partner. They say goodbye, and then they go off and find another partner and practice questioning and answering and remembering details from the video and key vocabulary too, such as coral reef. You can, as you're playing the video, regularly pause the video and ask some probing questions to the students. What just happened? Why do you think they did that? How do you think they feel? What do you think will happen next? Now, I don't ask all these questions every time I stop. I choose one and I ask it. Students talk either to me as a whole class or in small groups or partners, but asking more probing questions. Students can also personalize this. For example, they're watching the video about the coral reefs and it says, yeah, I remember when I went to the seaside in my country and there was plastic everywhere. It reminds me of that. Or one question I have is all the coral dead, or what percentage of the coral is dead in the Maldives? So again, it's asking students to critically think and respond to that video. And also there's one of my favorite activities for videos is called the narration activity. So divide the class into two, as students A and B, ask students to work in pairs. Student A is not allowed to look at the screen. Student B faces student A and faces the screen. And student B narrates to student A what they can see. So practicing a lot of present continuous structures and vocabulary. Then halfway through the video, you just swap roles. The student B now sits with their back to the screen and student A starts narrating. Oh, you have to mute the audio, but it's something to do before they watch with the full audio as well. Builds up lots of interest. And of course, after watching the video, the book provides you with a lovely personalization and critical thinking questions. Do you think the climate is changing in your country? Okay, but why do you say this? What do you notice? So not just an answer, yes, no, I don't care. There's more to this. There's more depth to this. So it's encouraging our students to be critical, which is one of these future skills that employers really love. So I've looked at how Wider World Second Edition engages our students. Now let's look at how they can take the lead in their learning. Well, let's first of all look at the Your World and Wider World activities in the course book. They look like this. So Wider World, we've just seen, often introduces one of the videos with the authentic speakers and then asks the students to personalize it, to give their opinion. So that's the orange one on the left. And then Your World over here, again, focuses the student to pay attention to their life. What's their response? And if you notice, none of these have a right or wrong answer because it's the student's world. They can rank festival things that they like. They're going to tell about music. They're going to talk about their opinions. So it's lovely. Students are just simply using the language and the vocabulary to talk about themselves. And as we know, it's a great way for students to memorize the language that they need. There are challenges on every page of the course book. So let's have a look at one of these pages, okay? So we're going to do a speaking class. We've got the listening first that then goes into the language that you need. So we've asking our students, do you have the same opinions as the listeners? So not, what did the listeners say? That's a bit of a boring question, but do you have the same opinions? Now we're challenging our students to have a response to the what they've just heard. Then, which opinion do you agree with? Again, there's no right or wrong answer, but the students are tasked with talking to their partner and practicing the language themselves. We then have this next activity, Set for Life. This is the future skills, which I will go into a little bit later, but it's asking, challenging our students to think, how can we use more bikes in our country? So it's awareness of the environment and awareness of complex problems as well. It's not an easy solution to implement bike lanes and change the infrastructure. So again, it's more sort of deep critical thinking here. And again, students are challenged as well with the listen, and then they respond with their choice of the phrase from the speaking box based on their opinions. And then, of course, in the final task here, students are going to be discussing in pairs the statements from the video. So all the time you're asking the students, can you do this? You do this, and can you do this? We're challenging our students to take the lead. Now, there are these mini challenges, as we say on every page, but then we also are introducing these big projects. And you saw an example of this at the end of the BBC culture unit. In this case, the project time is to create a mood board with style ideas for a teenager's room, because they just watched a video on home improvement. This is really exciting. Mood board, very, very modern. And then we're practicing big skills. So collaboration, communication in groups. They have to work out what they want to do. They've got to plan it. They've got to assign roles to members of the group to create this mood board. And then finally, they're going to be doing a presentation to the class on it. So nice, big, meaty projects. In this one, for example, they have to prepare a digital poster about an endangered animal. Of course, you don't have to follow that it has to be a digital poster. It could be any kind of output that is suitable. Students can also decide if they want to. They might want to do a TV advertisement. They might want to do a debate. That's fine. You can give the choice to the students as well. But do remember, there's going to be a lot of discussion in groups, a lot of taking the lead, collaboration, and finally a presentation at the end. So we always have to remember as language teachers to introduce language to our students, have it on the board, practice it, make sure the pronunciation is there before students go ahead and do the task, okay? If we want our students to take the lead, the Wider World second edition course books have workbooks that the students can do and plenty of online practice. So if a student feels like they need a bit of extra support and you agree with that, off they go. Here's an example of a workbook. And as you can see, this is the digital version I've captured for you here. Bright, colorful, different activities for students to do. And if they really need to, there's extra online practice here, so they can click the button and off they go to this Pearson English Connect webpage. And there's plenty of extra activities here. And it's not just grammar activities. You know, these extra activities ask the students to watch those videos again and do extra practice. Of course, there is grammar as well, and we can also focus specifically on grammar here. There's a use of English section. You know, in the exam, this is often, you know, if they do a language exam in their future to try to get a particular level of English, the grammar section can be quite tricky. So there's extra support and help here. And there's also extra vocabulary support with listening and memorization of vocabulary terms. Now, this platform we just looked at, this Pearson English Connect platform, also includes an overview of each student's strengths and areas to work on if you're using the digital version. So I'm just going to show you an example of this now. Now, bear in mind, this is the teacher's view. The teacher can see all their students and where they're doing really well and where they might need some help. But from a student's perspective, they only see their own statistics. So a student can very well see, okay, I'm really good at grammar and vocabulary, but I'm struggling a lot with my writing. And from there, they can pick up by themselves extra writing activities or go over again the writing lessons that they've done before. So it's encouraging our students to take the lead in their own learning. Now, coming on to the final section, how can we challenge our students in terms of language and life skills? Well, for me, let's refer back to this idea about life skills that parents and students think that it should definitely be implemented in the secondary school system, that we're learning life skills such as leadership, collaboration, communication, in order to be very successful in our future jobs. And so for me, as we've seen throughout the whole Wider World second edition coursebook, the language is there and the vocabulary, very nice, very challenging. But it also introduces two other elements that I love. This thing I've been talking about called future skills and visible thinking skills. So first of all, let's look at future skills, okay? What are they? Well, as we know, the world is changing very much due to technology. There's no need to memorize as many facts as you used to do because everything's there on the internet or even on these chat robots that you can find nowadays, okay? So instead of memorizing facts and figures, in fact, we're going to be focusing more on maybe communication, leadership, things that a robot or technology can't do at the moment very successfully. Also, life expectancy keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. So this means that if you're learning maths and science and then you go on to do a degree, doesn't necessarily mean that that degree is going to be enough knowledge for you to last the entire span of your employment history. We're moving into a future for our children where they're not going to be retiring at 60. It's going to be pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. So a job for life in one company is probably not going to be the future. Students will be changing jobs. So we need these set skills that students can transfer into jobs of the future. And employers, even now, are looking for evidence of these skills. And I'm just going to talk you through the main skills that Pearson have labeled as future skills. First of all, communication. Now, we're language teachers. This is good. We can teach communication skills already, but good communication skills are vital. Collaboration skills, working in those groups, making sure there's a positive outcome, that everybody's listened to. Critical thinking. Do you accept the news at face value? Do you accept that that web page is telling you the truth? Can you think critically and find solutions for yourself? Leadership, of course, very important. Self-management. Can you finish a task by yourself without someone else telling you? Can you do your homework by yourself without your parents asking you to? Putting up good study and habit routines. And then, of course, finally, is social responsibility. The issues that we're all worried about and that connect us globally as citizens. Prime example, we've looked at the environment. These are the things that employers are really, really focused on. So if we come back to the Wider World second edition syllabus and we go to teacher support of our, and this is the Pearson English Connect page where you can find this information. And then under teacher support, we have the section called Future Skills, where each of those 6 topics are broken down into sub-skills, and it provides for you an overview as to what they mean and also how you can assess them, which is really, really good, and how you can push your students into the next level of being able to do these skills. Let's look at the syllabus. This is Wider World second edition. As you can see in the red square, I've highlighted for every unit, there a particular skill is being practiced in the Set for Life pages. And I'll show you a Set for Life page now. So you can see in unit 1 to 2, the big skill is communication. And the particular sub-skills that are being practiced are how to understand the context and to understand messages that are being passed between you. And unit 3 and 4 is social responsibility, communication, and so on. So there's a real big focus here. And the lessons have been designed for you. In the, or shall we call them ordinary pages, we'll see in a unit. This is the grammar page. Can you see this little icon here? This picture of the person with their arms up in celebration is future skills. This is a symbol for, we're going to look at future skills. Because you might think, oh, if my students always work in pairs and groups, then sure, they know how to work well together. It's actually the opposite. we do need to teach our students strategies, tips and tricks for how to be good communicators, collaborators and leaders. This one here is about self-responsibility. So how do you remember things? So you're teaching students like strategies for how to remember stuff. Do they use apps? Do they write lists down? Do they have a homework diary? Do they use a mnemonic so they don't forget things? Okay, so you're guiding your students there. Just a little mini section. And then we have these big pages that focus on these future skills as well. So do you remember I talked about the BBC culture pages coming at the end of unit 2, 4, 6? Well, these future skills are taught in the opposite units, at the end of unit 1, 3, and so on, alternating. You'll find the set for life. Okay, so it talks students through one of these future skills, looks at scenarios, and then if we come here, we can see a communicative task that they have to do and the language that they're going to need and the ideas that will help them to manage this particular future skill. Okay, so if we look at it in a magnified way, we're looking at the empathy skills, involving people in a group, making sure they feel welcomed, overcoming obstacles and problems. So here we're role-playing ideas about problems and how we can find solutions, and that there's language involved here, useful phrases for students to remember. And what's nice about the section here on the right, where it says understand people's emotions, useful tips, useful phrases, this looks like a bookmark of a page. And so it's quite easy for students to come back to that section, refer to that section, should the need arise in their everyday lives. Now I just want to touch upon this idea of these visible thinking skills and how that does challenge our students. So a bit of background on visible thinking skills. It comes from the 60s. So in 1967, there was a project that was launched called Project Zero. And you can search for this on the internet and it will give you loads of information, loads of practical ideas about visible thinking routines. But Professor Goodman, the person behind this idea, realized and noticed that highly capable thinkers, which is what we want our students to be, use visible thinking routines. And those routines are becoming observers. So not jumping to a conclusion, but actually sitting back and observing, taking time, being able to organize your ideas in a logical way, and then being able to communicate those ideas to others will be easier for the listener to understand. Reasoning carefully. So not just saying something, but backing an opinion up with data, with reasons, with examples, and so on. And then also reflecting. So how can we make sense of the world? Do I have to put myself in someone else's shoes to understand their points of view? Can I persuade that person around to my point of view? How can we make sense of the world and make the world a better place? So these routines are fantastic, I think, for students in general and for the future of the future skills, the work that they're going to do in the future. So I like visible thinking routines because they don't require you to have a lot of previous experience when you teach them. They're super easy to implement in your classes. And I'm going to show you some activities in a second. You'll see how easy they are. It breaks down quite complex problems or challenges, and it makes students be able to think about them in a very accessible way. Sometimes when a problem is too big, students go, oh, no, I can't be bothered. It's like there's no answer. But with guided visible thinking routines, they'll get involved in the discussion a lot more. They're very easy to use, very easy to implement in class. And once students have done one of them, they'll remember it. So if you do it again, they know how to do it themselves. So again, it's students leading, taking the lead in the lesson. Again, this idea of creating positive mental habits is brilliant for the world beyond the classroom as well as in class. Allows the students to be these citizens of the world, to dig deeper into concepts and ideas. You know, they are the future after all. And of course, one of the main skills we're looking for is critical thinking, the ability to judge something and to get the data involved rather than take something at face value. And it does help to develop group thinking skills as well, communication, collaboration, which we've been talking a lot about. So let's look at an example of this from the course book here. So this is from the BBC Culture page, and here, big section on visible thinking. And this visible thinking is called Connect, Extend, and Challenge. And you'll notice the visible thinking routines often have these catchy 3-word titles or short titles. So connect, how can we connect what we're seeing in the photo or the text? What are the ideas that are connected together? How are these people connected? Extend that idea, okay? Bring it to your culture. How can we extend the idea of languages? What's it like in your culture or in your continent? And then challenge. Why do you think so many people speak English? How do you feel about this? This is lovely. The answer could be, well, I'm a bit annoyed that I have to speak English. I wish that everybody spoke my language instead globally. Or I love it because I love playing computer games. A variety of answers here. So it's challenging our students to take a stance, to think and to reflect. And as you can see, there are loads of visible thinking routines. And we just looked at one of them there, which was Connect, Extend, Challenge. And as you can see, many of them have that 3-word title at the top: see, think, wonder. Claim, support, question on the right. So there's many, many ways, and it's very, very fun. Here are the main categories of visible thinking routines. So it's a great time to use visible thinking routines when you introduce or explore a new idea. So at the beginning of a unit in a course book, when you want your students to dig deeper into an idea because they're really enjoying the topic and they want to go deeper into the concept. Perhaps when you're studying a system like how to recycle, asking your students to critically and visibly think about that system. Perspectives, of course, we need to be thinking about how other people are thinking, what their perspective is on life, how does that change, how does that inform their opinions? And so guiding our students to think about complex problems is really, really good. Possibilities, comparisons, how to organize your ideas, and also you can use it for looking objectively at art or objects and thinking more creatively about that artwork. So I'm going to show you a couple of activities now. So imagine you've started a new unit in your course book. And so, of course, this is the topic of introducing and exploring ideas. And the activity we're going to do is called See, Think, and Wonder. So here's a picture from the unit in Wider World, 2nd edition, book 3. So we've got, first of all, what do you see? So getting that vocabulary out, okay? What do you think about that? So we're further challenging our students with what they think. Do they think that the owners were a bit irresponsible for leaving a window open? Do they think that this person is a professional criminal? Do they think that maybe they were looking for something specific? So they're thinking about these things. And then finally, what does it make you wonder? The bigger unanswered questions. For example, was he looking for something specific? I wonder. I wonder if he actually stole anything because he's climbing out the window without anything. Or I wonder if he only took money and jewelry because it's a bit obvious when you go out the window holding a big laptop. And if you're carrying a laptop, the police might catch you. So things that you're wondering about and having an extra challenge, it allows students to go deeper into the topic. So speaking of digging deeper into ideas, here's another one you can do. If students are really enjoying the topic and you want them to get their teeth into something, we can do claim, support, question. So from Wider World 1, we've got this visible thinking activity here. And we've just been studying modes of transport. And so the question is, which means of transport do you think is best? Well, I think I want my students to dig deeper. I don't want them to just say, oh, bus is the best. Okay, but let's dig deeper into that. Are you sure? What evidence do you have for that? And will you change your mind if you do some research? So let's go claim, support, question. This is a worksheet that I found on a website called Toddle. Free worksheets, really good. For the theme of the environment, I don't like to print this off. I like to project it onto the board or email it to my students to see on their screens as they collaborate. We first of all provide a claim. So let's say that their claim is public transport, well, traveling by bus is the best. That's their claim. Then they have to go find evidence to prove their claim. Okay, but then finally, reasoning. Do you trust your evidence? Is your statistic correct? Are there multiple statistics? Which one do we trust? So again, digging deeper and not taking ideas at face value. Now, I have done a whole talk about visible thinking routines. So if it's something that excites you and you'd like to go and find out more about it, please scan this QR code and watch the webinar. And they're really great to implement in class, and students really, really like getting into them. So now I just want to come on to our conclusion. To conclude, we have covered what our students are saying about how they would like to learn, and parents as well. We've looked at how Wider World Second Edition answers those questions, and really fun, how it challenges them, engages them, and guides them to take the lead. And you've also come away from this webinar with some extra ideas for how to teach some video activities, future skills, and visible thinking routines. So thank you very much for taking the time to be with me today. We're now going to have a short break, but don't go too far away. The next session is coming up soon.